Fire, fire, fire.
Steve is crushing AI slop. Tasty slopper.
Right now, there's an AI disclosure on Steam that says that the game doesn't use AI. That does sound like a joke, but it isn't. The game's called Crime Scene Cleaner. It was a proper hit that then got hammered with AI accusations. Now, the studio's defense was, we don't make AI art. We buy assets, and no one on Earth can prove what's inside those. And so, 20 months after their game's launch, they decided to file the disclosure anyway, just to be safe. So now we're in a funky...
You know what's funny? I've seen actual artists being accused of using AI because there's a Twitter that like make up shit in their brain and are like, yeah, I'm an expert at like looking at AI. And it's like, bitch, you don't know this person. Like, yeah, granted, I'm sure there are actually artists that like started using it a little bit to help them and you would never know that. But like, yeah, I'm an expert armchair AI detector person.
Place where players are angry, devs are nervous, and everyone is asking if, say, asset packs that they thought were safe now need a full audit. It is chaos.
Why doesn't Blizzard Entertainment and Activision have to have like massive, what is it called, like discrepancies, or like you're bullying a little indie game for being accused of using AI, but for some reason all the big ones have massive, they basically have like passes to do it anyway. I know for a fact a lot of these fucking massive big ones are using it.
There. But the good news is someone has managed to map that chaos with a census of every single disclosed game on Steam. And the timing of that actually matters because in the last 6 months, the situation with AI has, in fact, materially changed and in a way that will impact video games quite a bit. Until recently, AI's promise in game development was, as most people saw it, bad image generation pretending to be gameplay, right? Those shitty AI video things. Obvious, barely coherent slop that nobody really wanted. But you may remember how Steam changed their rules on AI disclosures earlier this year. You see, that's when Gen AI coding agents got good enough to genuinely change aspects of software engineering. You could ask one of these to build a game.
You know what's funny is that AI detectors, one of the best detectors is AI itself. Think about that. Are you really that are you that anti-AI that you wouldn't want to use an AI bot to detect AI? Like, it's a tool. So are you that anti that you wouldn't use it? Yeah, it takes one to know it. Exactly.
And it will go write code, build assets, orchestrate this with a big fleet of agents, and run it all through a game engine. They can identify and fix bugs in many cases. It's honestly insane compared to where we were 6 months ago. And that means we're no longer talking about games that are actually just generated images in sequence. We are talking about prototypes, like say this one, a space sim called Long Silence.
What about vibe coding?
That was built by somebody running Claude Opus 5 in a big old loop for 24 hours. Certainly, the sorts of things that look impressive on like a viral X post are really just toy demos that can go viral. They're not really things that are like good, long-term, extensible software engineering for a real game project.
Sure.
No one's going to be out there one-shotting a game overnight. Though, the software engineering side of things, well, that actually could impact games quite a bit, because in the world of coding, there actually seems to be product-market fit for these models. Very much unlike, say...
I mean, I'm gonna be real, this already looks kind of funnily and better than No Man's Sky when it launched back in the day. Because there wasn't like a massive transition screen that took 10 years to load in. And you actually loaded into a planet that looks kind of diverse. Like, I'm half joking, but man, they needed a lot of work, man. Looks better than Starfield. Hey, that's the engine's fault, to be fair. Like, I think they genuinely tried to make that game half decent.
A lot of the bad customer support experiences people have had.
No Man's Sky now is awesome, but like back then it was
so at least for now, we're quite a long way from...
Yeah, where's the boycott on Coca-Cola? Aren't those fucks still all drinking Coca-Cola and Sprite and Fanta and shit? Yeah, what about that? What about the AI co-opting and then you know, fucking, oh, I'm gonna boycott Coca-Cola and just slurping their Coke Zero.
Elon Musk's claim that XAI will be generating games
think that
at scale
affected their sales? I
customized
kinda
to
doubt
you
it.
by 2027. You can find some of these things fascinating or repellent, well, whatever you wish, but either way, this is why Steam are mandating disclosures of anything AI that is player-facing. And we now actually know that Steam are enforcing this. Devs told Game
Ooh.
Discover Co., Steam is checking, Steam is catching it. And in one case, Steam was actually able to pick up that a background artist had used some Gen AI stuff for their art when the actual dev didn't even notice themselves. And that means that these Steam disclosure numbers actually do mean something. And the scenario they point to, that by 2028, 50% of all games on Steam could have an AI disclosure. That's a big number. You're probably wondering where it comes from. That's what we'll do next. That scenario comes from a developer called Sulka Harrow. Basically, he's a co-founder of Mainframe Industries who currently make a game called PAX Day, but he was formerly a design lead on, of all things, Habbo Hotel. He put out
Oh my god, this game was the GOAT, man!
pair of blog posts that were crunching the numbers on every single game with a
Dude,
Gen AI
Habbo
disclosure
Hotel,
on
man.
Steam. A census of the entire population going right back to when the disclosure started in 2024. And what he found,
Shut up.
oh boy, it is that AI games are growing really fast.
Yeah, AAA already does this. They've been doing it for years. I can't help but laugh. Like, there's so many anti-AI fucking, oh, the writing in Blizzard's game is like AI. Yeah, it is. It probably is. They really don't give a shit. Patch notes have spelling mistakes, grammatical errors. They don't make sense. But they've been doing it for years. They admitted to it, saying that they use AI to help with stylistic art choices, making it consistent, which actually is consistent with how generic Warcraft art has become. Yeah, like, they've been doing it for years, and people still that cry about it on Twitter, I always see them, like, being like, oh my god, look at my house on World of Warcraft, oh my god, it's so pretty, and then they're like, I fucking hate AI, anybody that uses AI is a piece of shit, and I'm like, your favorite video game uses AI all the fucking time. When are you gonna quit the game? Oh, wait. Oh, you don't want to. Oh, that sucks. Ah, jeez. Yeah, just your inconsistent bullshit.
In some ways. A month after disclosures became mandatory, 7% of new game releases had one. But as of today, 1 in 3 game releases has a disclosure. And if you extend that trend,
I'm not surprised.
you get Harrow's 50% by 2028 number. Now remember, disclosure is only needed for player-facing generated work. And that would mean, in the case of, say, the prototypes I showed you earlier, that those would count. Though
So anything that, like, the player can see, so vibe coding is fine?
wouldn't count for their code. It would be for the other things.
The
But going back to the numbers,
background,
what we
right,
see is
right.
clear growth. And in fact, AI games have accounted for, wait for this, all growth on Steam since 2024, at least by volume of new games. But you probably are aware that volume of new games on the platform may not correlate to, say, where people are actually spending their money. But first, let's work out who the hell's making these things. New devs who aren't making games with AI have kept to around 950 games a month since disclosure started. But AI-disclosed games from first-timers have actually risen from 140 a month to 440. They're the ones that
that's
are
a
actually
lot.
increasing, and those devs are actually way more likely to keep shipping. 22% ship a second game versus only 14% of non-
But does quality equal, if quantity equals quality? I don't know.
AI
I don't
disclosed
think
devs,
so.
and they're 3 times.
Let me look at fucking COD. COD has so many assets that are AI, and it's garbage still. It just depends. I'm of the opinion, if you release a good product, people truly don't give a shit the origin of it. They really don't. There's gonna be a small minority that's gonna be like, AI slop doesn't matter if it's vibe coded or if it's generated art. Okay, I get it, but like, you're still probably gonna play the game. You are a fucking consumer. I would be hard pressed to believe that there are a lot of people that do this. I think there's a minority, but yeah, overall, people do not care because it's probably gonna be a good product. Probably, usually slop.
more likely to ship 5
I think
games.
it'll get better,
now,
though.
for the
That's
most part,
the
the games
scary part.
themselves are small-scale affairs, and so are the people behind them. It looks like people kind of bootstrapped with their LLM subscription, not publisher funding. 85% are actually self-published. And that's because many publishers don't want to get involved, and by many...
I also think that this raises kind of like a bigger question for the marketplace of video games. When production costs approach 0, does that make it better for like a game dev to be able to budget like other things that they can make a game better with, like investing more time into like making a game good? I don't know. Again, it depends on the person. Expedition 33 got a lot of fucking shit for having AI used very briefly in like the art or something. And Baldur's Gate 3 was like, oh yeah, we use it for concept, and people freaked the fuck out. And I'm just like, if it makes the game good and it's not sloppa, like that shit on a plate, nobody gives a fuck. Why should they? Why is it not?
Well, I
There
mean,
we go.
80%. 80% of publishers on Steam have never had a disclosure, and of the 20% who have, 89% of those have only got one. And it does all make sense, right? It almost feels like the Unity asset flip days are kinda back, as these terrible games just...
And the terrible games are gonna flop, and the good ones are gonna live.
fill up the store. But it's actually not quite that simple. Harrow looked at reviews for every game that got more than 10 reviews. Now, most AI games review worse than the non-AI games, but it's not that much worse. On average, the AI games sit at 77% positive, whereas everywhere else, it's 81%. Now, broadly, there's a 4 to 6 point review penalty right up until games pass 80% positive. Above that...
Wait, that's actually funny. That's the human psychology at work right there. You reach a certain threshold and people are more lenient. Because it's like, oh, well, how bad could it be if it's got a really positive rating, even though it uses AI? Yeah, I think players more and more every year, and I know this is gonna be like, a lot of people are gonna be like super mad, especially considering because I don't, like, I'm a VTuber, and people are like, oh, are you AI positive or AI negative? I'm ambivalent because I know it's inevitable. All of my art has been already churned through so much, like, AI generation or whatever the fuck. It's that, like, I think that it can be used for, like, helping people more as a tool than a fucking crutch for, like, oh, well, I'm just gonna generate art or I'm gonna generate music. You could do it yourself. You either don't have time or money. That's where I think AI is going to be, like, used as a replacement for labor or just costs. You can't truly replace human beings. You're still having to put in, like, human effort or human thought into it. Again, the more advanced the tools become, and again, it is getting better. You can't even deny it. No matter how anti-AI you are, it is getting better. And it is terrifying how, like, 2-3 years ago, it couldn't even fucking conjure, like, I don't know, Will Smith eating spaghetti without... Now it's, like, pretty convincing. Like, I don't know. I've used this metaphor before where people used to say, like, oh, I used to get, like, AI videos all the time on my Twitter feed. And I'm like, you still do. You just don't realize it. Yeah, oh, Twitter's doing such a good job. Or Instagram's doing such a good job of hiding AI. And I'm like, it's not. It's not hiding it. It's just it got better at camouflaging. Because the quality went up.
The share of non-AI games climbs really, really fast. Now, is it maybe because these games are cheap slop that
Survivor
you don't feel
bias? Yeah,
offended
exactly.
by? Kind of the opposite. You see, the median AI game is $4.99, $1 under everything else, and they barely charge any more than $20. And price actually sets the size of the review penalty. Cheap AI games have a 3-point review penalty, and past $20, it is 8 points, which certainly makes sense to me. The second a dev asks you for more money, any hint of poor quality from AI just hits way, way harder. What we've learned is it's not really a question of just low quality shovelware being pumped out.
I mean, you can make the argument, like, with even, like, saying, oh, I'm gonna charge more for McDonald's than, like, a handcrafted Michelin star plate. because people can justify it with, oh, a human created this. They touched every little piece of the food on the plate and they had to arrange it in a certain way. You know what I mean? As opposed to like, oh, it's just McDonald's. They just fucking smacked it together. Even though a human did it, obviously it was smacked together and it's low quality. You know what I mean? I think that's where people's brains try to justify like increase in quality of paying for something, right?
These games do seem to have
McDonald's
at
is
least
overpriced. Yeah, and that's where a lot of people are just like, I don't want to pay this much money anymore. That's the psychology as well. It's working against them. People are actually not buying McDonald's as much as you'd think they would.
Baseline quality for the people who buy them. And I imagine that for the people who buy them, little caveat is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. But yeah, we basically see that a low price takes the sting out of the complaints. But cost only explains part of this. The rest comes down to the types of games that AI is used to make. AI clusters where content is cheap. And Harrow basically is able to see this in the genre data. We see the trading card games top the chart with 39% of them disclosing AI use versus 18% of games overall. And you can see why. Card art can be templated, the gameplay is systemic rather than, say, relying on a dev team making loads of handcrafted content. Now, if you flip...
wasn't the TCG game that everybody played at one point, wasn't that kind of like AI assisted generated? I forget, wasn't that one the TCG shop game? Yeah, like not a lot of people gave a fuck. Even the VTuber community, which is pretty like, I would say it's pretty anti-AI lenient, right? A lot of people like watched their favorite VTuber. Was it the Bazaar? No. The TCG shop. I'm pretty sure it's called something. I can't remember. Yeah. People like watched their favorite VTuber play and like HoloLive played it. Everybody played it because it was really popular. And like, I didn't see people fucking shitting on it all the time.
That to genres where craft is the
no
real selling
disclosure on a
point.
Steam
The
page.
AI
Maybe I'm
rate
thinking of something
collapses.
else.
Only 9%
I
of
forget.
hand-drawn games carry an AI disclosure, 10% of cozy games do, 7% of Metroidvanias do. You can basically see what's going on, and it is, as Harrow puts it, that AI stays away from anything that is defined by craft, skill, or hardware. Hardly a glowing assessment, but what's interesting is, if you cross-genre with reviews, you find that strangest of all, quality and sales have decoupled. What sells, right, is content-hungry systems games, the likes of Sims, management, adult titles. They rate at a middling 73 to 83%. Platformers actually rate best at 86 to 90%, but they get barely any sales. Only 2 or 3% were able to reach Harrow's 3,000 sales sort of barrier of a game being basically decently successful. And what that amounts to, in his own words, is that the highest rated AI games are commercial dead ends. Now, I'd say that some of that is just saturation, of course. In a market that's already crowded with, say, platformer games, an AI disclosure may be one way to get people to ignore your game. And that's why some developers have tried to find ways to make the disclosures work for them. Because they want you to know that they kind of feel bad, or at least mixed, about what they're disclosing. You see, when Harrow reviewed successful AI games versus flopped AI games, there was at least one clear trend. Of those who succeeded in spite of a disclosure, 59% used what he calls minimizing language. So that's words like assist.
I think this will flip at some point. I don't know when, but eventually it will just flip around. People will become more desensitized and more accepting of it.
Auxiliary, supplementary.
It's just
you can see how
now.
those kind of minimize the role. Although I would say that, like, those words can be used honestly as well, rather than just a tactic to minimize. And I think the point there is people can basically understand, right, if that's like a helper, but, you know, by and large, you have actually went and made the thing, I think it's pretty obvious that at least some people will be more sympathetic to that. So that covers 59% of them.
I don't understand what's the point of using AR in the art example. It's literally the most human thing to do. Some people would argue if you're like really poor or you have no money, say art books and stuff. For example, you can't get a stock photo of the exact pose that you want. So you'd ask AI to assist you in generating something that could inspire you or to look at poses that are similar to what you're asking for. Yeah, say it's like, oh, she's laying on the bed and she's got her legs up or something, and you're trying to, like, learn, right? It costs almost zero to learn art. You're literally misunderstanding what I'm saying. When I was a little kid, for example, I couldn't find good stock photos to like Photoshop because everything was like behind a fucking paywall, right? It was too low quality or something like that. Say you're in the same position, but you're an adult and you're really poor. You want to make an asset for your website, you can't afford it, so you're using like your knowledge to code and like make a website, but you can't afford the art. So like I think that AI was either gonna reduce the cost or the accessibility of reaching that point. Like the barrier for entry is going to get reduced. That's what I'm arguing.
But 21% explicitly stated that a human reviewed the outputs in some way. You bloody well hope so.
Yeah, like again, with the vibe coding, it's like, oh, well, I don't know how to code, but like I could learn. It's like, yeah, well, it takes a lot of time. That's the argument. That's what people use generally. Even if you're like, oh, I just fucking hate AI. Okay, that's fine.
But rather oddly, he found that some use the
right.
disclosure to deny using
right.
AI. And if that sounds familiar, well, that's the crime scene cleaner play. But if you compare the winners to the flops, it actually gets way more interesting because only 41% of the flops used minimizing language, and only 12% overtly stated human
They're probably just making money, or at least seeing what they could do.
review. One thing we appear to see from this is that when the disclosure meets the audience's skepticism and worry, then it does seem to work out better for the devs. Obviously, the devs know you want a reason to play the game, and if it feels like the devs understand your concern, then yeah, the game probably will sell better. But sell better is perhaps a little bit misleading, and that's because, like everything else in Steam, most of these games just do not sell basically at all. Across all 53,000 games in the census, AI or not, the top
is a hit lottery, not a volume story. Yeah, what a surprise. When you're churning out a lot of content, some of them will hit, obviously.
1% took 94% of the revenue. And if you look at it by quarter, right, you find that the top two AI flagged games are taking between 45 to 79% of all AI game revenue. That's games like, say, Arc Raiders or Crimson Desert coming in there being big, hyper-marketed AAA games that are, for their audiences, absolutely fantastic. So they're carrying the average up for the AI games. And if you strip those out, you see that the AI sales share has grown from 3 to 6% for a quarter to now between 10 and 27%. But that's actually well under AI's share of launches, which is 33%. So we see that launches are growing faster than revenue per launch. And to try and benchmark this a bit more properly, Harrow set a bar of around 3,000 sales, and he compared games that released in the same month. And when he did that, he found that AI games clear that threshold at 55% the rate of everyone else. And thus far, that rate has stayed flat whilst volume has increased. So in short, the hit rate hasn't got better, and all the revenue growth is basically coming from there being more games, not really better games that on average are selling way, way, way more.
Yeah, that's why there's an oversaturation in Google Images and Pinterest and all the other, you know, websites where you aggregate images, why there's so much AI art. It doesn't mean that it's good, it's just that there's a lot of it.
Continue the grim numbers, well, the median AI game with any reviews earns a rather whopping $300. Now, for the whole platform, according to Gamealytic, the median is $707. That's way worse. And we see that 28% of AI games never even get a review, compared to just over 10% of Steam games overall. So what that basically means is, it's super hard to get your game noticed, and it's even harder if it has an AI disclosure, it would seem. And so, if a dev builds their game like full, Gen AI build, they're probably not recouping the costs of their LLM subscription. But
yeah,
while
that's
they're probably
true.
worse
It's
off
pretty
than non-AI
expensive
devs,
still.
the actual dynamic that we see of Steam being quite winner takes all, well, that does hold true for everyone.
I hope that there's some level of like inspiration where people see that their game that they used with AI generated assets, be it coding or whatever, maybe they find out that it flops, but then they actually want to make something good and they get interested in it. That's where I think like we should be thinking as human beings, rather than being super against AI, is that we should be able to like, I don't know, like get ideas, like with concept art from Baldur's Gate, or yeah, it was Baldur's Gate. Larian Studios did that. They replaced it too with fucking, oh god, With Expedition 33, they used it, but then they just immediately replaced it. People still got mad at them. We act all day, we already know you don't think. Okay, man, hop on DBD, bro. You play DBD all day, I don't want to hear it. You can make gold with AI? That's right. You could do anything if you put your mind to it. You still have to put effort in.
Taking a lovely stroll through the numbers, so
effort.
let's bring it all home with the full picture. Currently,
I just think that with AI specifically for art, people get so viscerally upset because it only takes from what it knows. There's no such thing as create a piece of art that isn't inspired by anybody. And you can say the same thing about humans, but humans, there's like an element of creativity where even if you are truly inspired and you love someone's like music or art, you do have an element of like you put yourself, a piece of yourself into it, but AI literally can't do that.
Third of new games in Steam disclose use of AI. Almost none of those games sell. And if you rank each month's releases by review count, and you take the top 100, only 9% of them are AI flagged. And actually, by mid-2026, the gap has widened. AI is 37% of all releases, but only 11% of the winners, per, of course, Harrow's 3,000-ish sales benchmark. There are spikes in the data, but the spikes are caused by outliers, like, say, Arc Raiders. Then, the 500 or so AI games that we see a month, they do seem like a flood. But the simple fact is that Steam has been flooded with new games for a decade now. And over that decade, Valve has largely solved the problem. The algorithm buries most games that were never really going to sell. It can make
That's good. Yeah, that means that their algorithm is working.
Mistakes, I guess, but it does push slop down. And when we isolate to the AI games that have won, well, we see hedging language and disclosures, a higher chance of there being a publisher attached, and fairly clever genre selection to take advantage of audience interests. Otherwise, Steam filters them out like any other game that Steam does not expect to sell. The disclosure data then seems to suggest that these games have underperformed their competition for the last few years.
The more you charge for an AI game, the harder players punish it. Yeah, of course.
But think back to those prototypes.
I don't want to pay $10 for my McDonald's burger.
Now, the final quality will come down entirely to their own skill, but the barrier to entry to do a lot of the technical side of game development, the code bit, that is now just the cost of a subscription and learning how to orchestrate agents. Now, the thing is, that mode of working is fairly new within software engineering. It is not diffused out super broadly, and it's not massively diffused into the game space. We may see things change, though we may not see that in the actual disclosures on Steam, because the disclosures are for player-facing content. And that raises a question for many people buying games on Steam. There may not be a disclosure there, but the developer may have used basically agentic engineering to do a bunch of the engineering work behind their game. Is that okay with you? Is it not okay with you? That's totally your choice.
And again, culture shifts, opinions shift. Yeah, I mean, people, it takes time. We truly don't know. Obviously, I'm not fucking omniscient. I can't look into the future. But like, generally speaking, I think people will be more accepting or more like ambivalent towards it as time goes on. Again, that I think it's kind of like an arms race in a sense, and not like a weapons arms race, but more so like, oh, we got to use AI to its potential so that we can progress or whatever. I think like, is it gonna stay a niche preference or grow into like an actual kind of like its own little market once like the volume of this AI content becomes even more dominant than it is like today as we're talking about it?
What I think will stay constant is that games are bits of art that are made by people. If, say, those people are doing agentic engineering to deal with some of the software engineering part of making their game, but they're by and large just using that as a tool, and the game is very much their own authored thing with their own craft, and it actually does look and feel just like any other game, right? Then I think those games will be successful because people want a really good game. If, though, people get so impressed with what the technology can do that they maybe lose sight of games as art or games as a thing that you actually sell to a customer, and they basically get blinded by hype, well then what you're obviously going to see is sloppy shovelware on Steam. That may be annoying, but as it turns out, Steam has already solved that problem, and the algorithm basically murders those games. Now, to say the obvious...
Yeah, because it doesn't want to push games that suck. Like, it's just that obvious, really.
Those prototypes I showed earlier on are not things ready for commercial sales, though that hasn't exactly stopped other types of AI product that would look like slop. The devs' promise is that the games and the tech will only get better, but part of that future will be dependent on the tech scaling, how much things generalize, how data center build-outs happen or don't happen, and everything else about the AI economy actually holding. And then, most importantly, on audiences changing their taste and reversing the trends that we've seen over the last 3 years. A word of advice to Team AI from me. If you want people to accept this technology, don't ram an early version of it down their throat while saying it's for their own good. Just like, say, Tim Sweeney of Epic Games, with this
Man, you're acting like Steam and other video game, publishers don't fucking use it. Again, they always subvert it and try to frame it as best as they can.
Groundbreaking new voice in Fortnite.
Hello there. This is a sample of this voice.
Hello there. This is a sample of this voice.
This is a sample
it really
of
does
my
sound that bad.
voice.
And if you want to see the rest of the story, simply watch the next
The
video.
slop is here. The sloppa, the sloppa. Yeah, I don't know. I think they probably will have to, make more rigid rules on the AI disclosures because people are gonna either skirt or subvert or dance around the fact that they used AI and stuff. And I think as consumers, we should be, informed. Because again, people's morals are all different. I get it. People might get upset. They get, heated in chat. I truly don't give a fuck if you're anti-AI or pro-AI. I really don't. My point is that, it's an inevitability, and I think there has to be also protections done in order to protect the consumer from being taken advantage of. I have some artist friends that I talk to, and they're like, yeah, I know it's inevitable. There's nothing we can do about it. Blue Sky, Twitter, Google, whatever the fuck. Every single thing that exists on the internet right now is being scraped by AI. It doesn't matter how many posts you make crying about it, shitting your pants, running to Blue Sky and saying, I'm gonna hide here and please support me. It's what do we do? More of a reason to not support it, but you don't fucking matter as a person. It's kind of virtue signaling at this point. AI is everywhere. That's why it sucks. We can fight and piss about it and cry about it all we want, but you're nothing but a drop in the bucket. In terms of impact, I mean. I'm not saying your voice doesn't matter, but it's what are you gonna do? It's gonna keep going. It's a machine. Yeah, it's too late. The genie's out of the bottle. You can do something about it. You can make laws and stuff, but it's already too late. And here's a hot take too. I think being mega giga anti-AI is just as cringe as being mega pro AI and using AI save all over your Twitter profile and being I use AI at this person. I make AI videos. I think it's just as cringe. Sorry, I don't think you're a horrible person for thinking that. I don't. I just think that's two sides of the same coin. It is. The ones that make profiles and are I refuse to post on Twitter. And okay. Have fun. Alana's a doomer? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Again, what has happened in the last, 5 years? RAM has gone up. It's fucked over the consumer to the point where even Steam, the multi-billion-dollar company, is affected by it. Do you think they don't care? Do you think they liked publishing the Steam box or whatever, the Steam what is it called? The Steam box, the Steam Cube, whatever the fuck. Do you think they liked publishing it and being shit on for like how bad, how it wasn't like the most optimal thing because they fucking couldn't afford the parts for it? Do you think they enjoyed that? I don't think so. They probably looked really bad on them. Do you think Gabe enjoyed releasing it when it cost so much money, so much more than what they planned it to be? Because of the AI bullshit? Yeah. Of course not. It's a give and take. It sucks. I blame big unions like UN and EU for not regulating this shit. I think EU's trying. I think EU's always been more bureaucratic and lawmakery than, say, America or like North America in general. It's both a good and a bad thing, and I don't want to get too political, but like, you know what I mean? Like, they do have good protection laws in certain countries on like consumerism and stuff, which I wish sometimes America would fucking have. But at the same time, they do it so slowly, like, it annoys the shit out of me. Like, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing with this? What was the newest one that they were talking about? Like, stop with the fucking, with the, what's his name? Fucking Pirate Software and the guy that he shit on. I forget his name. I'm really bad with names, but you know, yeah, stop killing games. Yeah, that. Like, that's been at a crawl. At an absolute crawl. I hate bureaucracy. I hope something happens with that, but you know what I mean? I think they're not gonna do anything about AI in terms of law for like 10 years, because boomers are stupid. They don't know what the impact is. For God's sake, I mean, they're putting AI in fucking cars, for God's sake, and everything. No. Ho ho ho, I use AI to post PNORs daily to millions of Twitter people to replies. Yeah, the fucking OF bots are insane on the internet. It's in my rig too. Yeah, it's everywhere. What can you do as a consumer? Not buy a car? Okay, well, I'm gonna go buy a 1998 car. Oh, what's that? The car broke? Oh, Mercedes patented the part that I want to use to fix my car? And I can't buy it because they have a patent on it, and if I do anything, then I'm a bad guy and they can put me in jail if I like 3D print it or something to fix my car. You're fucked no matter what. And I don't want to be doomer again. I am dooming right now, but it's like, what do you fucking do? Buy 1960s American cars. It doesn't matter. We watched an entire video on it. They don't want you buying old cars. Because that's what they know is gonna go against the grain. It sucks. Build your own car. Yeah. I'm gonna put 4 wheels and like put a little fucking paddy wagon at the front. I love old cars too, in the sense that like at least they fucking function for what they are. It's just that the companies want to fuck you over. That's what I hate about it. Yep, they fuck you over. Super hard. Corpo Borpos. Buy a bike and start pedaling. Oh yeah. Yeah, very livable in America. I think I looked at it. If I biked from my place to the nearest grocery store, it would take me like probably like 30 minutes, I want to say. Yeah, and how am I gonna drag my groceries back? Like on my back or something? What if I have eggs? Or like, I don't know, a carton of eggs or milk? You'll never be fat? Yeah. Yeah, I really look forward to spending 3 hours get a cart bike? Well, then you should have bought a car. That's right. Yep, that's right. I want to buy more than one thing. I gotta do multiple trips. Yep. DoorDash it. Oh, but then you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem if you DoorDash.
Fire, 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 fire.